Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're really going deep into the world of IP, intellectual property, and intangible assets. And to help us navigate this, we have a true pioneer in the field, Dr. Benjamin DeLSOL.
That's right. I think anyone listening who wants to understand how modern businesses are really leveraging those less visible assets, those intangible assets, this is going to be an eye-opening deep dive for sure.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. We're talking about Dr. DeLSOL. He holds a PhD, and this is where things get interesting, in quantum nanoelectronics from the University of Grenoble. And his research focused on things like superconducting quantum circuits. Now, I'm no quantum physicist.
No, neither.
Could you break that down for us a little? What does that even mean? What are superconducting quantum circuits, and why is that research important?
Sure. Imagine like the smallest possible level, of matter. And you're studying electrons in extremely cold temperatures. And what they're doing is basically trying to build the very, very fundamental components of what will become a quantum computer. So it's not just theoretical. This is literally about the building blocks of like the next generation of technology. And because Dr. DeLSOL has that kind of deep understanding, that hands-on experience with those really complex systems, he can bring something special when it comes to protecting innovations in these cutting-edge fields. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to understand the legal framework around like a new processor, but it's a whole other level when you've actually been in the lab doing the research that leads to that kind of breakthrough.
Exactly.
And then, this is where it gets even more interesting. On top of that PhD, he also has an International Master of Laws in Intellectual Property Law and Management from CEPI, which is at the University of Strasbourg. Talk about a fascinating combination. How does that blend of deep scientific knowledge, and we're talking hardcore physics here, and legal expertise, how does that actually play out when he's working with companies?
It's really about perspective. I think because he understands, let's say, the physics behind a new type of quantum sensor, he's not just looking at it from a legal standpoint. He can anticipate potential issues, someone trying to copy the idea or infringement, and he can identify the truly unique aspects that maybe a lawyer without that scientific background would miss.
Oh, I see.
And that leads to stronger patents that can really hold up.
It makes those patents bulletproof, basically.
Exactly. It's a much more granular and strategic approach to protection.
It's not just about knowing the law, it's about understanding the science behind the invention.
That's right.
And on top of all of that, he's also a qualified European patent attorney, so he's not just a theorist. He's got the practical experience to navigate the, let's face it, often very complex world of patent applications and regulations. Plus, he spent a decade at Haudier IP, working with everyone from tiny startups to huge multinational corporations. That's some serious real-world experience. What were some of the, recurring challenges he might have seen during that decade that maybe led him to this pioneering work he's doing now with Fractional CIPO, Chief Intellectual Property Officer, and CIAO, Chief Intangible Asset Officer roles?
Over that decade, he really saw firsthand how different companies have different needs when it comes to IP. And what he realized was that a lot of smaller companies, really innovative companies, just couldn't afford a full-time top-tier IP strategist. Right. Yeah. So he saw a gap. And that's where the idea of fractional leadership came in, being able to offer that high-level guidance, but in a more flexible way when companies needed it most.
So for a startup founder listening right now, the idea of having access to that level of experience, especially during, say, a crucial fundraising round or just before a product launch, that's got to be incredibly appealing.
Oh, absolutely. It's about having the right expertise at the right time.
Now let's dig a little deeper into this fractional concept. For someone who's not familiar with it, what are the key differences, like the practical differences, between the fractional CIPO role and the fractional CIAO role that Dr. DeLSOL is so passionate about?
Okay, so think of it this way. The CIPO, they're laser focused on the legal stuff, securing patents, trademarks, copyrights, making sure the company is protected from lawsuits. And then there's the CIAO. Dr. DeLSOL has really been a champion for this role. It takes a much broader view. So the CIPO might be focused on getting a patent for each individual invention, right? But the CIAO is stepping back, looking at the whole picture. They're looking at the company's entire portfolio of patents, the secret know-how behind their manufacturing, the data they have, their brand reputation, even the knowledge and skills of the people who work there. It's all about how these things work together to create a real advantage in the market and ultimately contribute to the overall value of the company.
It's almost like the CIPO is guarding the individual pieces, and the CIAO is figuring out how all those pieces fit together to create something much bigger.
Precisely. And Dr. DeLSOL always emphasizes that in today's world, A company's value is often tied to those intangible assets, much more so than their physical assets.
It's the ideas, the knowledge, the brand, that's where the real value lies.
Exactly. So managing those assets, and I mean managing them from every angle, legal, technical, business, it's not optional anymore. It's essential. He even brings in ideas from neuroscience, brain science and data analysis to really understand how innovation happens within a company and how that intellectual capital can be harnessed for growth.
It's fascinating how he brings all these different fields together. He uses that analogy of the conductor, right? Harmonizing all these elements of innovation, like an orchestra.
Yes. It paints a perfect picture of the CIAO role.
Now let's talk about DeepTech. With his scientific background, Dr. DeLSOL is a real leader when it comes to IP strategy in this space, especially AI and quantum technologies, which he's been deeply involved in for the last decade. Why is that scientific background so crucial in these particular fields?
Because AI and quantum computing are so complex and moving so fast, you need someone who can truly grasp the technology. And his background as a quantum physicist, that means he can actually speak the language of the researchers and engineers who are pushing the boundaries.
So he's not just looking at an algorithm or a quantum breakthrough from a distance. He gets it. He understands the science at a deep level.
Exactly. And that's invaluable when it comes to securing strong patents and building IP strategies that can stand up in these new uncharted territories. It's about more than just knowing the law. It's about understanding the very essence of the technology itself.
Makes sense. So he's working directly with these AI startups and quantum companies, helping them navigate the IP landscape, which I imagine is incredibly complex in these new and evolving fields.
Oh, absolutely. And his work with QEnvision as an international advisor, that's a global quantum innovation initiative, and his role as a judge and mentor for their World Challenge, it really shows his dedication to fostering innovation in this space. It's about protecting those breakthroughs, but also actively shaping the IT landscape to encourage even more progress.
And speaking of shaping the landscape, there was that announcement at the Quantum Innovation Summit about a landmark partnership he's part of, merging deep tech law with IP strategy and leadership for quantum and AI ventures.
Yeah.
What kind of impact might we see from such a focused initiative?
This is about building the infrastructure, the support system that these revolutionary technologies need to grow and actually become commercially viable. His mission is to create IP strategies that not only protect, but also pave the way for these discoveries to move from the lab into the real world where they can make a real difference.
It's about ensuring these potentially world-changing technologies actually get out there and have an impact.
That's it.
I know we've also heard about his talks on patenting AI in what they call Industry 4.0, this next phase of industrial automation, and his advice to quantum computing startups on tech transfer. It seems like he's always got that practical, hands-on approach, not just giving theoretical advice.
Oh, definitely. He's deeply involved, helping these companies tackle the real-world challenges of protecting and using their IP in this rapidly changing technological landscape.
He's not just an academic, he's in the trenches with them.
That's a great way to put it.
He is.
Now, beyond his work with fractional leadership and deep tech, Dr. DeLSOL is making a lot of contributions to the broader world of innovation. He's the founder and CEO of DELSOL Group, where he operates as a fractional CIPO and CIAO consultant, working with all sorts of companies.
It allows him to really tailor his knowledge to the specific needs of a diverse group of companies, high-tech companies especially. It's a really agile and impactful way for him to apply his expertise across different industries. And with over 10 years of experience as a European patent attorney, including his time at Javier IP, he's been involved in litigation and pretty much every aspect of IP strategy. And even now, he consults for various IP law firms all over the world. That's an incredibly well-rounded background.
It is, and that depth of experience across so many areas of IP law, from the initial patent application all the way to potential courtroom battles and the big picture strategic planning, it gives him this 360-degree view of intellectual property and how to manage it effectively at every stage.
And it's not just practical experience. He was elected chairman of the I3PM IP Strategy Committee at the International Institute for Intellectual Property Management. That speaks volumes about his leadership and influence in shaping how IP is managed globally.
It shows that his peers, not just in one country but internationally, recognize his deep understanding and his vision for the future of IP strategy. It's a real testament to his expertise and the respect he's earned in the field.
And it's not just about working with the big players. He's actively involved in mentoring and advising startups in those companies that spin out of research institutions.
Right.
He seems to have this knack for taking these complex legal ideas and making them clear and actionable for entrepreneurs who are just starting out.
That ability to translate, to make the law understandable and useful for those early stage companies, it's so important. They often have these amazing ideas, but they might not know how to protect them, how to use them to their advantage. Dr. DeLSOL bridges that gap. He provides that guidance that can make all the difference in whether they succeed or not.
He's also a highly sought-after speaker at industry events like that Quantum Innovation Summit we mentioned, sharing his insights and perspective. And he contributes through articles and webinars. I remember seeing something about his concept of IP design as a leadership tool. Can you tell us more about that?
He believes that IP shouldn't be an afterthought. It shouldn't be something you just react to. He says companies should be proactively designing and integrating IP strategy into their core leadership right from the start. It's about planning ahead, figuring out what to protect, how to protect it in a way that aligns with your business goals, and then how to actually use those IP assets to drive innovation and create real value for the company. It's about making IP a fundamental part of how the company thinks and operates.
It's not just about defense. It's about using IP as a tool to build something great.
Exactly. And he even teaches these concepts to the next generation of IP professionals through his guest lectures at the CIPI IP Business Academy. He's committed to ensuring the field continues to grow and evolve.
Passing on the knowledge, ensuring that expertise lives on.
Precisely.
And finally, his work advocating for tech transfer, advising research institutions on how to bridge that gap between their cutting-edge R&D and the commercial world, that's crucial for turning scientific discoveries into real-world solutions.
Absolutely. It's about making sure that the innovations coming out of universities and research labs don't just stay in academic papers. They need to get out into the world, into the hands of companies who can develop them into products and services that benefit society. And that requires clear IP pathways and agreements that benefit both the research institutions and the companies.
So zooming out, looking at the big picture of his work, what would you say is the core vision, the driving force behind everything Dr. DeLSOL does? What's his fundamental philosophy about the role of intellectual property in today's world?
At the heart of it, he truly believes that intellectual property isn't just a legal box to check. It's a strategic asset, a fundamental building block for any company that's driven by innovation. He emphasizes that IP strategy needs to be deeply embedded in the company's overall vision, objectives, and business model. He wants to see those patents, trademarks, and other IP rights actively working to support and advance the core goals of the organization.
He's even used a rather striking phrase referring to IP rights as a weapon of mass construction.
I love that analogy.
It really highlights that transformative power he sees in them.
It does. He sees well-managed IP as this incredibly powerful tool, capable of turning an innovative idea into a tangible asset, something that gives you a real edge in the marketplace. And that perspective also feeds into his work in intangible asset valuation, helping companies recognize and communicate the true worth of their intellectual capital, which is so often hidden beneath the surface.
And you can really sense his passion for technology, for the entrepreneurial spirit, for unlocking that human potential that exists where groundbreaking invention meets strategic business thinking.
Absolutely. He's a true champion for innovation. He wants to reveal tomorrow's pioneers, as he puts it. And his unique background, spanning quantum physics, law, even cognitive neuroscience, allows him to connect with both the brilliant inventors and the strategic decision makers, bridging that gap between the spark of an idea and its realization in the world.
So, to sum it all up, Dr. Benjamin DeLSOL is a truly remarkable figure in the world of intellectual property and innovation. His incredibly diverse expertise, combined with his groundbreaking work in promoting fractional IP leadership, offers a powerful and forward-thinking approach to managing and leveraging those increasingly vital intangible assets.
It's not just that he has an impressive list of qualifications, so he certainly does. It's that he uses this multidisciplinary perspective to analyze innovation and drive value creation for businesses. His early embrace of fractional CIPO and CIAO roles has been a lifeline for companies, providing them with top-tier support at critical moments. And his deep understanding of fields like AI and quantum technology makes him a key figure in shaping the IP strategies of the future.
This deep dive into Dr. DeLSOL's work really highlights the strategic importance of intellectual property and intangible assets in today's competitive landscape. And for any business looking to grow and innovate, a thoughtful and expert-guided approach, like the one he champions, could be truly transformative, unlocking potential and paving the way for lasting success. It makes you think about all the untapped value that might be hiding within your own company's intellectual capital.
It does.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.